When does a boy become a man? Is it when he attains a certain rite of passage, like earning his driver's license, his first kiss with a girl, graduating from high school, or is there another unseen rite of passage that confirms the transition towards adulthood? Is it the first time when you watch something and truly hate it? Was the first movie I hated the rite of passage that set me on the path towards making these videos you're watching right now? Let's find out.
You gotta love to be gone back yet. Love turns into happy, don't you grab it.
What was the first movie you ever hated? It's really easy to remember the first movie you saw or the movies that you loved when you were younger, but can you remember the first movie you actively hated? Now, I'm not talking about simply being bored. When I was a kid and when I watched movies, they only fit into 3 categories: fun, funny, and boring, with nothing in between. All films were divided into those categories. I'd love to watch animated movies and live action movies with action or broad comedic slapstick elements. Hell, if you had a live action slapstick with animals, I'd be doubly happy. I feel that most kids generally feel the same in terms of what they look for in film. I was extremely stubborn and resisted watching anything new. I remember I was like 4 years old and there was this movie my parents wanted me to watch. I was in a fit of anger because I demanded to see a cartoon movie. They thought I'd really like this new movie, but I kept a sour face saying I'd hate it no matter what. That was because it wasn't something I wanted. I remember acting like a little brat and whining during the opening credits that had this long series of boring words that scrolled across the screen for what felt like forever. Then this scene started to play out on the television, and I proceeded to shut up. It was everything I could have ever wanted in a movie, and it taught me an important lesson, that it was important to shut the hell up and accept new things. When I was a kid, I had no taste. I wasn't watching Star Wars for content. I saw lasers and spaceships, and that was it. Hell, I'd say that most children also have very poor taste in entertainment. Like I said before, there are only 3 categories things fit into for children: boring, fun, and funny. This is how things remain for quite some time in terms of my taste for films and media. I had a very sad realization one day when it came to me that if I was 10 when Michael Bay's first Transformers movie was released, I'd probably think it was the greatest film ever made. It was funny, but it had fun elements of robots blowing each other up, and it was bookended by broad comedy from nearly half a dozen comic relief characters. The soldiers were cool, Optimus Prime was wise and noble, and Bumblebee was loyal. What else did you need? Best movie of all time. Give it every word you can throw at it. But I wasn't young when the first Transformers movie came out. I was in college. When I saw it, I could sort of feel the inner child clawing at my psyche, screaming, "This is the coolest thing ever!" Maybe I would have thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I might have even loved the terrible sequels. But fortunately for me, a film I saw back in 1996 helped spawn the birth of my critical reasoning skills. And that film, as you might guess from the title of this video, was Space Jam. Now, I was really excited about Space Jam. I was about 10 years old. I'd spent at least half of my life watching Looney Tunes reruns on a variety of old TV networks. I'd enjoyed them, but there was a sense in the back of my mind of how antiquated they felt, as if they were produced for another era, which of course they were. When I first saw the first trailers for Space Jam, I was excited to see these characters represented with a fresh coat of paint and a modern sensibility. While I honestly did not give a crap about basketball or Michael Jordan, I was more than willing to tolerate it just so I could see a return for the Who Framed Roger Rabbit style of live-action humans interacting with cartoon characters. I remember I was with friends and we were all pumped up to see the movie. We were so excited and I finally got to see it that we literally went to sleep midday so we could fast forward through the day and reach the point where we'd actually get to watch it. Then I saw it, and after I saw it, I had this horrible sensation in the back of my mind. It was funny, and I certainly remember laughing at some moments, and I enjoyed seeing the Looney Tunes in contemporary animation, but it felt hollow, and the more I contemplated it, the more I had the sick sense of revulsion. I felt unsatisfied. The 88 minutes had flashed by in an instant, and I never felt like I'd seen a story, just a collection of amusing animated pieces that were jammed against unwatchable, boring live-action segments with Michael Jordan, who had no goddamn charisma, and the screen presence of a wooden plank. He just stared into the camera and would drone on and on. He couldn't even act like himself. I literally felt myself growing fidgety every time he came on screen, screaming in the back of my head, "Please, for the love of God, can we get back to the Looney Tunes?" The wooden quality of his acting was only exacerbated when he was placed against Bugs Bunny. It's really sad when your performance is outclassed by a cartoon rabbit when the cartoons felt more real and believable than any of their flesh and blood counterparts. The movie was just a crass example of commercialization. The entire thing was conceived as an extension of those stupid Looney Tunes branded sports clothes that seemed so popular at the time. The more I thought about the movie, the more I hated it. The entire thing was a commercial product whose only raison d'etre was to perpetuate a clothing brand line. Sure, lots of shit has that stated purpose, but some of it actually manages not to suck. And as much as some people hate it, the new My Little Pony cartoon was more or less created to shill for toys, but Lauren Faust still managed to make something good enough to inspire the entire brony subculture. You'd think that with the enduring legacy of Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers could manage that much, but nope. The more I thought about the end result it achieved, the more I actively despised Space Jam. It was only made worse by the fact that no matter what I did, I could not manage to get away from that awful I Believe You Can Fly song from R. Kelly. I was forced to sing the damn thing as part of my elementary school graduation ceremony. After that, there was no going back. If you've ever read Philip Pullman's wonderful His Dark Material series, then you could say I finally attracted the dust, lost my innocence, and formed the beginnings of what would constitute my adult sense of consciousness, and critical reasoning that would only become angrier and more cynical as time went on. Some say that's a bad thing, but I'm thankful for this birth of critical reason. It allows me to look beyond spectacle and pandering nostalgia that fills so much of today's storytelling and call out bullshit when I see it.
Mike, aren't there any original films coming out this year that have no connection to previously established franchises?
Endless trash! It also allows me the critical reason to say with no sense of regret that the only worthwhile film Michael Bay ever produced was The Rock, and the rest are all terrible.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best. Winners go home prom queen.
But in some ways, I'm grateful for a chance to experience such incredible disappointment. It served as a wonderful buffer for the landmark sense of unfulfillment that would come from Star Wars Episode 1. It also helped me expand my taste to a degree where I could better discern things that were actually good. Ironically enough, in our never-ending obsession with remaking and rebooting, where anything with even a small kernel of nostalgic value is reused or recycled, there are rumors of a sequel to Space Jam starring LeBron James. Part of me groans at that thought. But maybe it's a good thing. Maybe a whole new generation will experience the same sense of disappointment as I did and learn enough critical reasoning to actually avoid the next Michael Bay Transformers movie. So now I ask you, dear viewers, can you remember the first thing you saw that you really hated? What was the birth of your critical reason? Let me know in the comments below.
Bumblebee, stop lubricating the man.
Get that thing to stop!